Hey, Rachel Baribeau here, coming to you from my Whoa Man cave. Want to take a moment to tell you a story about what has happened in the past week and a half, 2 weeks. About a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I shared a really super vulnerable video of what I was going through in my own life, what I was walking through. And depression, and even had a suicidal thought or two. And I'm not ashamed of it. It doesn't make me weak. It actually makes me a warrior. It makes me a Wonder Woman for being brave and vulnerable and bold about it. And because of that, one of my queens ended up sharing her own video about an eating disorder and what so many young women face on campuses. One of my queens. And so I went to SEC Media Days on behalf of SiriusXM. And, you know, it's interesting for me because I have two silos that I work out of. I'm a sportscaster. I'm a host for the college football playoff. I was the first female host on SiriusXM on their collegiate channels, but I'm also an activist and the founder of Changing the Narrative. So I kind of have these two roles that I play, and sometimes they interweave and sometimes they don't. And so I go to SEC Media Days and I am ready to talk about sports. And we did talk about sports. But the commissioner of the SEC, Commissioner Greg Sankey, opens up his comments with mental health. Wow. Thank you, Coach. And so because of that, I felt it really important to talk about mental health to a lot of the coaches, to a lot of the players. What role do they play? What are they doing to destroy the stigma around mental health? It was just a great week in addition to talking X's and O's in football. And so fast forward to the Sunday after Media Days, and I'm home. I'm trying to have a few down days before I get on the road. I'm going up to the Pro Football Hall of Fame to the enshrinement all week as the guest of the Pro Football Hall of Fame on behalf of Changing the Narrative, and then getting on the road to several states, lots and lots of states for August to speak before football season kicks off. So I was trying to rest a little bit, and I saw some comments that Jim Harbaugh had made regarding mental health. And here's where the story gets even more amazing. Instead of attacking Jim, instead of jumping on the bandwagon, instead of going full force, and something that, as much as I could read and understand and listen to the audio, I don't know what was in his mind. I don't know where he's walked. I don't know where he's been. I don't know what was the impetus behind making those comments. So instead of coming at it from that perspective, my mom always used to say, you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. I've got a lot of her sayings. And I just invited him for a conversation. I invited him to sit down with me and let me teach him everything that I know about mental health and vice versa. Because I've learned so much on the road in the past 3 years with changing the narrative about mental health. It didn't even start with mental health. It started with purpose, passion, platform. What are you doing with your life? Interpersonal relationship, dating, and domestic violence, because I've been through that. And then these athletes taught me that mental health is such an important topic, and it's now something that we talk about. Come here, baby. Come here. It's now something that we talk about in Changing the Narrative. This is my fur baby. He keeps me sane. I know, baby. I know. So anyway, so I think this is like an important distinction. That sometimes when we don't understand where somebody's coming from, or we are just tempted to go at them. Y'all, we do that way too much these days on social media and in life, particularly social media. I don't think we'd ever really behave most of the time for most of us in the ways that we do on social media. So I just said, thinking of my mother, I just said, how about I ask him a question? How about I invite him for a conversation? And so I sent the most non-attacking, open, beautiful tweet. And it said, hi, Coach Harbaugh. I would love to sit down with you to talk about mental health, to teach you everything that I've learned on the road in 3 years. And I would love to learn from you. Teach me what you know. I said, you wield a lot of power. And I think if we held hands, we could really change a lot of lives. And everything that I learned from you, I could take back out on the road to other schools. And so that was that. And it was on Sunday. And tweet got a lot of, and I added him. I put him in the tweet. Tweet got a lot of play. And then there was a Michigan fan that felt like he needed to defend his coach. And he called me a coward. And he said I had an agenda. And I said, if I have an agenda at all, it's an agenda to save lives. So absolutely, call me Skip Bayless. You call me names. And I kept, quote, retweeting him. And he got mad about that. And I said, listen, I'm just showing the world who you are. And I'm going to continue to be kind to you and civil to you. Because sometimes I think we forget that, y'all. We could get so much more accomplished in life if we just start talking, asking to sit down, listening. We got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And so the coolest thing happened. Coach Harbaugh followed me. And Coach Harbaugh, instead of waiting for me to fly up there, said, here's my number. Call me on a Sunday afternoon. And Coach Harbaugh and I had a 35-minute conversation about mental health, about transfers, about player well-being, about the state of affairs with college players right now. And there's a ton of coaches that would have never done that. He's getting his close-up. Go, buddy Joe. There's a ton of coaches, and I know a lot that are wonderful that I can get to, that I have relationships with, but there are some that are so insulated that they've got 7 gatekeepers. You can't get to them. They wouldn't pick up the phone on a Sunday and give you their cell phone and ask you to call them. But kudos to Coach Harbaugh for doing that. That's exactly what he did. And you know what he's done since? He's reached out to me on Monday, and he reached out to me on Tuesday. And just this morning, on the 23rd, I think it is, of July, we're in the process, in the plans of me going to Ann Arbor to not only sit down with Coach Harbaugh and learn from him, to sit down with his 6 mental health experts, for me to teach them what I know, and them, for me to open my brain and them to pour in everything that they know, so we can end this stigma, so we can have no more young people, old people, people out there, anywhere, whatever age you are, deal with suicide, so we can end the stigma around depression and mental health. As a friend of mine said this morning, we go to doctors if we tear our MCL. Why don't we go to doctors if we got something going on up here? How cool is that? Coach Harbaugh invited me, and I'm going to Ann Arbor, and I'm also going to visit with the team. And we're going to change lives. And it's amazing. And it all started with vulnerability. It all started with just being raw and open and vulnerable. And so maybe it's not for you on social media or making a video, but maybe it's with your family or your friends. Maybe it's with taking that step to get therapy, whatever it may be. But I just wanted to share with you today the cool things that have happened since I decided to be vulnerable and raw and open. And I wanted to commend Michigan. I want to commend Coach Harbaugh for what he's doing and inviting me, not only just picking up the phone on a Sunday, which a lot wouldn't do, but also for following up on Monday and following up on Tuesday and helping me destroy the stigma around mental health and helping me that place really, we were talking this morning, he and I, about, the NCAA says you can't, lose a scholarship based on, your mental health for a student athlete. I understand that, but here's the reality of it, ladies and gentlemen. Even though that's the rule by the NCAA, that still doesn't destroy the fear around that a lot of student athletes have, that they tell me on campuses across the country, of why they won't go talk to a therapist, why they won't go talk to their coach, because ultimately they are afraid that might happen to them. So we got to figure out, close the gap, work together so that we can all come together for change. We can all be better. We can all be healthier. And my gosh, thank you to Coach Harbaugh for taking that grand first step to help me with changing the narrative. If you want more information on my program, on me, you can go to IamChangingTheNarrative.org. That's IamChangingTheNarrative.org. You can also go to, I'm on social media, at Rachel Baribeau on Twitter. I would love to hear from you. You can drop me a line on that website too, or a DM or message, and love to come speak to your church, your community, your convention, your women's, your men's, your youth group, or your school. Have a wonderful day. Me and Buddy Joe, we're going to have a great afternoon. Love you guys. Destroy perfect. Let's destroy dog hair. Let's destroy this idea of perfect around social media, that we're all comparing these perfect lives, because none of us are perfect. Let's start getting real. Let's start taking the mask off. Be a king. Be a queen. Love you guys.